call the meeting to order of the Meramec Valley Historical Society, 6 p.m. Roll call, let the record show that Wayne Winchester, Donna Graham, Jeff Titter, Bonnie Post, Dennis Oliver, Andy Nemeth, Steve Ross, Steve Myers, and Dr. Udi is present via Zoom. We'll go ahead and I just want to remind everybody to speak into the mics so everybody can hear whoever's watching on Zoom or Dr. Udi or people present. So we'll go right into the mission and vision statement, review and recommendation. Dr. Udi, do you want to, or Steve Roth, do you want to start this, or do we want to go straight to Dr. Udi?
Oh, I think we can go straight to her.
Okay.
The committee, I think, will recall their initial meeting. There was discussion on these items, and we're here tonight for the for a recommendation on the final mission and vision statement, both.
All right, Dr. Udi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. Okay, so we're going over the mission and vision statement, correct?
Yes.
That's what I heard. Okay. So last time, the only changes I heard from last time was changing it to the Meramec Valley Museum. So I'll go ahead and read the mission and vision statement with that edit in mind. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So the Meramec Valley Museum serves as a site for interpreting, researching, and preserving the rich history of the Meramec Valley. This museum establishes and nurtures meaningful connections between its visitors and the area's past through programming and exhibitions geared to excite, engage, educate, and inspire. And then the vision statement is as follows. The Meramec Valley Museum strives to expand and strengthen its collection and visitor base regionally, nationally, and internationally through intentional collection management practices, programming and exhibitions, and the promotion of fellowship amongst other museums in the area.
Thank you. Any members have any comments, questions about the mission and vision statement?
I have a comment.
Donna?
The name of our group, according to our ordinance from a few alderman meetings ago, was Meramec Valley Historical Society. So should we not match our name with what the ordinance says?
Well, I think our group is the society, which is, you're correct. But I think when we're talking about the museum, I think this is just the vision statement and mission statement, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Udi or Mr. Roth, this is just the vision and mission statement for the museum itself. It's not for the committee, correct?
Correct.
Right.
We can have our own for the committee. We can develop our own mission and vision statement for the committee at a future date.
So it does not necessarily have to say Meramec Valley Historical Museum?
Not necessarily, it's whatever we want to say, but I mean, our committee name is the Meramec Valley Historical Society. But when we were discussing this mission and vision statement, it was for the building, the museum itself. It wasn't for the group as a whole.
If I can interject really
Yeah.
quickly here, I designed this with the Missouri Historical Society model in mind, where they have 3 separate sort of museum sites that are all under the umbrella of one historical society, but each one of those sites has its own mission and vision statement. So in this, I saw the Historical Society as sort of the umbrella to this museum, but this mission, as Jeff said, this mission and vision statement were exclusively for the museum itself.
But, I mean, everybody was welcome to make any suggestions or changes to it, so.
I think it's good. I think it really spells out exactly what we're trying to do. You know, and it brings in the entire Meramec Valley, which I know there's been a lot of discussion before about how in a lot of the things that we had done or even talked about had really kind of put it towards a certain thing. Mm-hmm. I think this really ensures that it's about the whole area and not just a specific Route 66 or anything like that. Excuse me. I think it's great. I do think that there needs to be a delineation between the museum itself and the society. And I think we do make that in here by saying the Meramec River Valley Museum, which I don't know if that's 100%. I like it. I think it's fine. But I think this is a great start to really refining exactly what we want to do with the museum and how we want the museum to appear to everybody that visits or talks about it, written up in articles or advertised. I think all of those are great things.
I think one change was that we did remove river from the,
Right.
you're fine, from the statements. I think it's just.
Correct.
The
should be-
Meramec Valley Museum.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make a motion to accept it, because if Andy is saying that it's not Route 66, I'm all in.
I did that just for Dennis.
Yes, I know, thank you.
Is there any more discussion?
Well, to Donna's point, are we including that it would say historical museum or not?
I think to Jeff's point, we don't need to, because it's about the museum, not about the committee.
Right, yeah, I mean, yes, and then, and we discussed this, I think, at a previous meeting where this was just for the museum, but I think at a future date, we can develop one for the society itself, a mission, because the society, I think, will encompass more than just the museum. It'll encompass genealogy, any of the historic buildings in town that we want to mark, and things like that. I think at a future date, we can develop that for the society itself, but this is just for the museum at the Red Cedar.
Correct.
Any more discussion? I have a motion by Dennis. Is there a second to approve?
I'll second it.
Second by Donna. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Udy, on that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
I've never experienced that before.
Recommendation, item number 4, recommendation, museum exhibits, review and recommendations.
Do we have to do the vision statement?
I thought we approved both of those at the same time.
Okay.
Do we need to back out and revisit?
No, that's fine.
Was your motion to approve both? Correct.
Certainly.
Okay. Because they were read both, so
Yeah, I agree.
okay. Donna, do you have any?
No.
Okay. Sorry. So item number 4, the exhibits, review and recommendation. Mr. Roth, do you have anything on this?
Not really. There was some discussion earlier regarding the list that's in the meeting packet. And I think it's, for the committee to determine specifically what you all want to see. So I think we can work off of this list, but go from there.
Have the members seen the list in the packet?
Did that come to us via email?
Yes.
Okay, the only thing I saw, and maybe I missed it, was the agenda.
It was in that, it was a whole, like,
All in there.
15 or so pages, I think.
I just could have swore. Did you? All right, cool, thanks. Sorry.
No, if you guys, yeah, if you have it, Bonnie, did you get it? Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Keep in mind, I have COVID brain right now, so.
No. Okay. I think it's a very good list that we can definitely work from. I think it encompasses a lot in the area. It comes from Route 66, Civil War, the railroads, the river, the mining.
The one thing I don't see on here, and I don't know if we want to include it or not, but Janet has said several times at different meetings about Purina Farms.
I think there was, and Dr. Udy, I think you might be able to help us. There was at one point on here about food or agricultural in the area.
Yeah, it says food
Correct,
production.
the food production in the area.
Yeah.
And I believe at last meeting, Steve suggested also, which was great and needs to be in there, the history of the Red Cedar Inn. But yeah, Purina, you said Purina Farms, correct?
Purina Farms, yes, it's in
Yeah.
Gray Summit.
Right, yeah, and covering that under food production.
And would Shaw's be included in any of this as well?
I'm sorry,
Shaw's?
Shaw's? I would think we would have to include it somewhere in,
Because without Shaw's, we don't have the overlook, right? I mean,
they were part of the CC camp. The CC camp is what built, correct, Mr. Myers?
They were a partner in it, but it wasn't them exclusively.
but I thought it was part of the corridor, the Shaw corridor.
Well, yeah, Henry Shaw had the corridor established, and they built Jensen Point partly to showcase the corridor and give St. Louisans a destination to come to another,
Okay.
on the way to the farm.
Okay, so, yeah. Thank you.
Is there anything else that we feel is missing? I think it's a pretty good list personally, but I'm also the newest to town out of this entire group, so.
I mean, I think to Dennis's point, yes, we do want to encompass Perina Farms, but that would be hopefully under the agriculture food production part, and definitely Shaw's, which we would definitely want to include that with the connections to Jensen's Point. And
Other than that, I like the list. I think it's a good list.
Bonnie, do you have any comments?
My only question would be any exhibits that we would have, I guess, that and maybe they're addressed separately, rotating or on loan exhibits?
I think when we talk to items on loan, I think that's where we get into the management, the management
Yeah,
plan
the
for
collections management
Yeah.
policy?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where that would govern that whenever we eventually get to the collections management policy that we need to adopt. It would address items on loan. Would it also discuss about rotating displays, or is that a different area that we would have to develop a policy on?
So the collections management policy covers the items themselves.
Okay.
If there are other policies that you want to add about the sort of exhibitions themselves, rotating or exhibitions, then we can work that in as well. And that has been, that's going right now, so that should be back to you within the week.
Okay.
Is that
So we can
what-
discuss that.
Is that what Mr. Pryor will be working on? Derek Pryor, will he be working on that? As far as how they rotate our displays, or is that not part of his job?
He needs content
Right.
now to be able to design the displays around. So as far as
I-
a section that would be able to be rotated, he can design that into
Right.
it.
Right, he can design, but we would have to be the ones to come up with what we want to eventually rotate in and out. The committee or the director, whoever that would be, we would, do we rotate every year, some areas every year? Dennis?
So that brings up a good question. The gentleman that we're talking about, his design is going to be with electronic displays as well, correct?
Correct.
So if we decide to rotate them on a yearly basis, are we going to have to contract with him every year to redesign these? Or they will be, where the electronic, we can go in and do it ourselves?
I would imagine that your full-time person that you're hiring is going to have the capability to be able to load new content into the electronic media.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion to approve the list?
I'll make a motion to approve the list. And I do that with the addition of the two that,
The Perina Farms and
Yes.
Shaw's?
correct.
Okay.
And the Red Cedar.
And the red
And-
cedar.
And the Red Cedar?
Sure.
Correct.
All right.
I'll second.
Motion, all right, second by Andy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed.
Can I make a comment while we're still on this then? Steve has worked with Derek a little bit more than I. These are some big picture ideas, and I think the the thought that we have is, we want to give him the concept and then let him take it from there. Route 66, for example, he's talked about actually carving out a map or, a representation of the actual Route 66 either through the entire country, I think he's talked about, or through the state, and carving that into the floor, for example. So, where these ideas actually go to in his, how he takes these and runs with them, how are we going to work that process? That's a little bit unclear to me. Obviously, the Board of Aldermen ultimately has the final say. Yes, this all looks good. I guess simply we bring these ideas back to you. I'm getting at here. When we work with consultants in other areas of our operation, especially when it requires a degree of creativity, and we kind of let them go, do your thing, right? And you give us your best ideas, and then we kind of take them from there and try to put them into some sort of final form, primarily through staff, frankly, and then it goes up to the board ultimately for approval. So, I'm just a little bit unclear on what your expectation is regarding that whole process.
I mean, I would think that we hire a professional to give us his professional abilities, and whatever that means, whether it's, to your point, carving something or, I would want him for us to give him a general outline of what we want, I would think. And then he should come back to us with what he believes is the best way to represent that. I mean, his work stands out. I think everybody saw, right? Like his ability from what he's done at all these different places, from John Deere to, I think, Jack Daniels, some other ones. Like, I don't know if I would ever question what he brought us personally, but I would think that we would give him a general, which kind of what we have now. Here's the general displays that we want. And then he knows the space, and then he should come back to us, I would think, and say, here's what I believe is the best way to represent all of this within this space. Because I know I'm not anywhere near, I don't know, intelligent enough, or I don't have the vision to be able to do what he does. And I think that's why we hired him, is to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I appreciate all that. I think that's helpful. Maybe what I'm getting at is more, you all, the committee members, people that have worked in this area, you might know what's special about, let's use railroads, for example, right? The big boy came through. I don't have a good grasp of this, and nor do I have really a good idea what you all have in your collections. So, how do we get, whatever feedback you might have on the railroads, for example? I mean, I guess it'd be simple enough. You just, send it to us, and we try to compile it, send it back to him.
Is there a way to have like a workshop where he says, okay, so you want to talk about food in the area? Great. And then you could have, here's all the ideas of what we think resembles food in the area or whatever else is on the list. And then he can take those things with him and kind of nitpick it out and do what he wants. That way we get the experts to tell him why they think these are important or the reasons why they're important. And then he can go back, and then that gives him a little bit more context to what he's doing, maybe. I don't know if that makes sense, but...
Oh, it does.
Jeff, we probably, I would think the best way as far as the list of exhibits goes that we have here, we couldn't just hand Derek this list and say, this is the list of our exhibits, but if we would pick out some that we think would be the best for now, for opening the museum and bringing in more people, for example, we know the railroads played a big part in Pacific, so we would definitely say to him, let's pick out the railroads and the Civil War, maybe 3 or 4 things to give him an idea, what we want to work with first. Rather than just handing him a whole list and say, okay, these are our exhibits we want, maybe we need to narrow it down to start with and then say, after those exhibits, then we would like to have these next exhibits and do it in like a group.
And
Sorry.
no, I was going to say that, our list is pretty extensive, and I know that we won't be able to put all the material out that we have. So we are going to have to somewhat pick and choose what we want to begin with. But I would like, just have an interaction with him to say, okay, this is what we want to start out with. This is what we have for these exhibits. How do you display that?
Yeah, I was going to say that, I think what Andy was saying, if we could have a workshop with him where he says, okay, these are the exhibits, the potential exhibits, what do you have to go with that? Mm-hmm. And then we can lead him to it and explain, show him what we've got or explain to him what we've got, and then he can go back and make his pitch as to how he wants it set up and what he wants it to look like, right? And then bring them back to us, and then we can choose the ones that we think would be the best to start with and then go from there. Is that what you're asking, Steve?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to throw in is that he has done this over and over and over very successfully. And so I don't think that we need to really create his way of doing this. He already has it established.
Right.
And he's going to come in, and the workshop idea is awesome. I think it'll go very much the way you just described, Dennis.
Yep.
But, he's going to be the one that's going to lead us through
Right.
the collections, through the concepts. You're going to, he's very excited about the list that you've already come up with. Mm-hmm. And so he'll take that, he'll pull from that, he'll ask for the content, you'll show him what you've got, and then say, okay, Derek, give us your best way to exhibit this thing. And that's where we want to be very careful. I think Andy touched on it a little while ago, not to micromanage.
No, and I don't think we want to.
Creativity.
I agree. We're not the experts here.
Right.
But we need somebody to guide us, and I'm excited for him to be part of this process. But, we're going to have to be the ones to say, okay, this is what we have for this display.
But I also wouldn't limit ourselves either. I think giving him everything, while to us that sounds exceptionally overwhelming, to him it's probably not,
No,
right? Because
right.
that gives him all the ideas. But then if he did come back and say, okay, you know what, as part of this, we've decided that we're going to do this Purina thing, right? I don't know if we have anything Purina. Let's say that we don't. Well, then that's an opportunity for us to go to Purina and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's his idea. What do you guys got? Mm-hmm. And then we can go. Now, do we want to take months on end of going to grab stuff?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
But also, if we don't throw all of it at him, to what Donna was saying, which I understand, sometimes we want to limit what we give people and we don't want to overwhelm them. But I think if we hold back at all,
Right.
I think that limits the ability for him.
To pick and
These
choose.
creative people are, they need everything that they can get, so that way they can design it all. And I think we wouldn't get the best product if we didn't throw it all at him.
I agree with that.
Personally.
I agree with that. You touched on this a little bit, and so is this a time that we put out to the community that we're looking for things for these particular things and see if we can get more donations, more things donated?
He defines. So if we throw all of this at him, we have a workshop, we tell him why the railroad's great or why Purina Farms. Then if there's any missing pieces, then I think that's when we should go out.
Okay.
Because if we just put a call to action, I'm sure that would.
Right,
Inundate us, right?
Right.
With a bunch of stuff that may not be necessary.
right.
Jeff, I have a comment.
Right, Donna?
For example, your Route 66 dining, a couple of committee meetings ago, I had taken one of the listings that were given, and I used an inventory list from Janet Daniels. And for Route 66 dining, I had several things listed that would fall in with that. We have Parrots Restaurant, we have Ida's Cafe, we have display cases, we have a lot of things from the Diamonds Restaurant, Red Cedar Inn, we have tickets and photographs, and we have some information about the Pacific Restaurant. So while we do have this list of exhibits, we do have with our inventory list things that we can punch in to each of those. So, while he has this list, we also have the inventory list that we've written up, so he'll be able to look and see what we have that would fall into those. I would be leery to go out to the public right now and ask for, donations or something, because we're having enough trouble with what we've got, getting all of our things accessioned and stuff.
So, Mr. Roth, what do you need from us at this point regarding the exhibits?
I think we can take this list and go to him and say, let's talk through it a little bit and understand what this might look like contractually.
Okay.
And if questions arise through that process, I think a committee meeting of some type could be helpful. I think he does need to get, and I really want to hear what Steve has to say about it because he's worked with them a little more, but I think he needs to get, just kind of knee deep in it and really understand, what the expectations are from you all, what you might have that you would want to incorporate into it, the various exhibits, and then kind of go from there. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I met with Derek with the construction team just this past Wednesday, and you can see the workings of his brain is just already in motion. He's thinking through what the space he has allocated. He's talking about lighting with the construction team now, what he's going to think he needs as far as along the west wall and the northern wall, where outlets are going to be needed in the center of the room and along those walls. Of course, there's areas of the building that he's not really involved with, so he's really focused on what this presentation can look like, what's going to pop when you walk in the room when you first come through the red doors. So he is ready to receive the collections and the topics and the collections that follow. This is just a very creative individual that's ready to go. He's kind of like a racehorse right now, still in the gate.
Would it help if he had a list of our inventory items so that he can look at them and see what we actually have?
Do you have those categorized under each of these headings?
I don't think.
Well,
Not at this time.
No.
I don't think it's exactly under these headings, but, we do have the inventory list. That's what I used a few meetings ago when it was a handwritten thing that I think somebody made copies and handed out to. Maybe Dr. Udy has that still.
Yes, I do. And the original posting of this also had some select items from the collection that would go with each exhibition. So it's
Right.
not an exhaustive list of what items correspond to each exhibition, but there's some key items in there that I have as well.
So, Mr. Roth, I guess, so the next step would be giving this list to Mr. Pryor and go from there?
Yeah, I think so. All this information is going to come to the board at the next meeting.
Right.
And then, so we'll need some board direction to staff. And what I would expect and hope is the board says, yes, negotiate a contract with him. So then we'll give him this information. And I think through that process, there's going to have to be some sort of meeting or, coordination with you all. Okay. What I'm trying to avoid is, you guys having a meeting this month, and the next thing you know, it's all kind of full blown, and here's where it's at without much input along the way. And then, questions, hey, why didn't we do this or why didn't we do that? I just think you guys need to be pretty involved, at least in the early planning phases, so we're all on the same page with it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion from us to say submit this to the board, or or to go to Mr. Pryor, or
You did, there was a,
we voted on
okay.
the exhibit, so.
I don't think you need that.
Okay.
We'll take it forward from here.
Anybody have any comments or questions or concerns about that? Okay. Dr. Udy, did you have any comments on the exhibits or anything?
No, I
Okay.
just want to say that I think that you're in good hands with him. And I think that's, every designer is different, and I'm more of a storyteller. I come from the storytelling point, but it sounds like he comes more from the design point, and it's where he starts. And from talking to him last time, seems like he knows, if there's something that's beyond his expertise, he has the connections to get that taken care of and contracted out.
Appreciate that.
So, yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Moving on to Tourism Director Review, Mr. Roth.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I don't know, I think the collection management plan update, if we could go to that
For that?
now.
Okay.
Because
Then we'll-
Dr. Udy is, of course, welcome to stay on as long as she wishes, but I don't know that she's really needed
Okay.
for the tourism
All right.
piece.
Well, then we'll move on to, we'll skip Tourism Director Review, then go on to Collections Management Plan Update. Dr. Udy?
All right, collections management plan. Would you like me to share my screen? Do I have that capability?
You do, although it's probably not going to be very visible,
Okay,
unfortunately.
well, would it help if I just went over sort of the main tenets of the collections policy that have been developed?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. So let's see. So this policy outlines the management responsibility of the collection, so that, and I've approached this as the collection itself is governed by the Meramec Valley Historical Society in conjunction with the museum. So the museum is where the items are displayed, and the Historical Society sort of houses these items. This policy also outlines the collections committees and how those can be formed in order to review loans that are coming in, or items that are being accessioned or deaccessioned, or any loans that are going out, and how that process works. Let's see. And the questions that need to be asked in terms of, again, those actions, accessioning, deaccessioning. It outlines the different types of collections that the museum would have, and that's, we've got it delineates a permanent collection and a special use collection. The special use collection, those are items that are not necessarily accessioned. They can be they can be used for educational purposes. It's sort of thinking if there's something that you want to go out into the community and it can be touched, the special use collection is specifically outlines that as sort of a teaching collection. It also outlines the care, preservation, and conservation of items, financial appraisals, access to collections, inventory, loans, outgoing loans, and it talks about how the committees will meet to make that a reality, and and incoming loans. And then it wraps up with rights and reproductions. So what the guidelines are for reproducing anything that's in the collection, and who gets to do that, and how can it be used, as well as, again, deaccessions and what that process looks like. Let me see if there's anything. Gifts, guidelines for deaccessioning gifts. And then it gets a little bit into the ethics with personal collecting, and making sure that there is no conflict of interest there, and kind of outlines specifically how that would work. So if someone involved with the museum has a personal collection and they want to add to that collection, just making sure that there's no competition with the museum or the historical society when that happens. And that's it closes out with that. So I know that was a lot. Are there any sort of initial questions with that?
Any members
Or
have
anything
any,
you were hoping to hear that you didn't?
any questions for Dr. Udi regarding that? Mr. Roth, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I saw the initial draft she sent her last week, and I made some comments, sent it back to her. She is planning on finalizing by the end of this week, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
And, looking over it again, I don't think that, and Steve, correct me if I was wrong, but I didn't see anything major in that, so that might be coming to you earlier than Friday. I think I can get that done.
Yeah, and just a quick comment. Some of this is new to me, and it was really eye-opening, frankly. It was very organized, very thorough, I think, of course, based on best practices. And, I think I was very impressed. The next step,
Thank
of
you.
course, is to get the final draft and then bring it to you all, and then you guys have to review it and so on and so forth. But yeah, I appreciate her work. I think we're, on the right track, and, make one kind of little, somewhat of a side comment, but earlier, I think Steve and Donna and maybe Jeff, you were there, I forget, but you all had identified certain items that you thought were, that could be removed and disposed of, essentially. And I told Donna before the meeting, we were kind of struggling with how that would work, right? Because, it technically would be considered city property, and so there's a process for disposing of that. Well, once I got the collections management plan from Dr. Udi, it's right there, basically. It kind of outlines the process, and the committee reviews, and then, the committee as a whole takes action. And, given the city situation, then the board ultimately would have to approve that. But I think that would be a great sort of test run, honestly. Kind of run through those items that you had previously identified as surplus, and then kind of run it through the collections plan to kind of help with the process of it.
The items.
Oh, that's great.
The items that Jeff and I marked for disposal have not been accessioned or numbered, so we didn't have to worry about that. And I think some of the items that we do need to get rid of haven't been numbered or accessioned anyway. But certainly if we do get rid of something, that has been numbered, then we have to let whoever, Janet and Theresa are the ones that were doing all the accessioning for the numbers, but we would have to let them know so they could put that on the books to show that we no longer have it and what happened to it.
And I will say that I would say majority of the stuff that was marked was nothing historic. It was items donated to the museum back when it was in the Wolf House on Union Street to display items on, or to use as a desk, or a display case. It wasn't anything historic that families have donated that tells the story of the area. So I just want to put that note in there, so.
And I also mentioned to Steve, some of the items that we have taken them with the understanding that if we don't want them anymore, they'll go back to the family, or we will see that it goes to another appropriate museum. Unfortunately, I think a lot of our items that we have, the family no longer exists, or if there is a relative somewhere, they don't want them. But if we do have anything of historic value, then we would have to contact another museum, before we would want to dispose
And I think
of
that's
them.
where this collection management plan would come in, how to dispose of stuff. So I think because we've never had anything like that before, it'll be nice to see something like that, how a museum should operate when it comes to their collection. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing it, so. So hopefully you'll get a draft by the end of the week, and then will you forward that out to us, or?
Yeah, I'll just forward it out
Okay.
directly once I get it.
Okay. Any member have any comments or questions about the collection management plan? All right. Dr. Udi, do you have anything else? You're more than welcome to stay on, or if you want to head out, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I appreciate it. I just wanted to say thank you for accommodating me this evening. And it's been great seeing you all again. And I really don't have anything else that I feel like needs to be, I feel like we've covered everything. But it sounds like I will be in contact with you all soon with that collections management policy.
Okay.
And look forward to it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Udi.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
help.
Yep.
Bye.
Moving back up to the tourism director review.
Okay, so we are getting close to actually posting this position. And so I came up with a draft that was discussed at the administrative committee meeting earlier this month, and then at tourism commission meeting, and finally now to you all. This is a job description. It can be technical, so I would, we don't need to get in the weeds of some of the technical aspects of it. Just want to kind of outline, my thinking, and again, it's been through a few committee reviews already. The position is called Tourism Director. As it's codified, I think we would call it Director of Tourism. And when I say codified, that means this is a job description. There is actually an ordinance that is scheduled to be presented to the Board of Aldermen for a first reading February 1st. And that ordinance right now calls the position Director of Tourism. Underneath that, then there are duties such as described here. In any case, this position is essentially responsible for operation of the Red Cedar Museum and Welcome Center facility, as well as the tourism activities of the city. Works in cooperation with your group here and other entities in management of the museum collection and activities. The director supervises museum volunteers and city staff as may be assigned in running the center. Director manages marketing promotional activities in a variety of formats, works with not-for-profit and government partners in furtherance of the city's tourism mission. Essential duties: management of the city's tourism marketing promotional activities, operation of the Red Cedar Inn Welcome Center Museum, providing staff support to the Meramec Valley Historical Society, and staff support to the City Pacific Tourism Commission. Other duties as may be assigned. So, as I think you all are aware, we have a tourism commission, we have a tourism tax, and the commission oversees spending of tourism tax dollars. And so this position is envisioned to report to the tourism commission, in part, of course, and then, take some direction in kind of a broad sense over tourism activities, and then also reports to the Historical Society in the operation of the museum and in the operation of the society itself, frankly. So it's kind of, there's a few different duties and responsibilities. I don't think they're in conflict, but in fairness, obviously we are talking about two different boards. Ultimately, of course, it's all under the umbrella of the city, and so the Tourism Commission and this group here are recommending bodies. Ultimately the decisions are made by the Board of Aldermen. So that's kind of the overall outline of it. This person would attend all your meetings. It'd basically be a paid staff person that is assigned to work, again, directly with you in the operation of the museum and the society itself. So that's where we're at this point.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Bless you. No comments or questions? All right.
I thought it was pretty thorough when we read it. I guess it was last week at the admin meeting, so I think it'd be interesting to see who applies and how many
Right.
people apply, so. And Steve, you said what, 45 to 60 days usually for us to get a good candidate?
Yeah, I'm hoping to post it soon. You know, after the next meeting, Board of Alderman meeting on the 1st. I'm trying to remember. I think we did want to go to tourism yet, but I kind of have to review some of my notes. But I'd like to get it posted by mid-February at the latest. Time frame, I think it'd be nice to have someone hired and working by April, if possible. Yes, it's, you know, the actual Red Cedar project won't be ready for occupancy probably until late summer. Is that right? However, there's a lot of work to be done, and I think, you know, just the work that's happening tonight here would be helpful for this person to be in this role as we go forward. So, yeah, I'd like to get it moving, and that was basically the direction of the administrative committee. So, if we're fortunate enough to find someone capable, you know, again, we could have them working as early April.
Great. Anyone have any comments or questions? All right. Moving on to miscellaneous. We'll start with Mr. Myers. Do you want to update us on Red Cedar?
Well, right now, we're into some details about like the ceiling finish, what will that look like? And they give us different options in terms of pricing, and we found one that's acoustically friendly. That's one of the things that's been most important to me, because the building doesn't have very many acoustic properties to it. There's no sound absorption. So it'd be very loud and echoey if we didn't have something that had some sound absorption to it. So a couple of the options that they were kicking around just didn't, and it would just be reflective, and it would bounce the sound all over the place. So if somebody was over watching a screen that had sound to it, they'd be hearing it across the room, and it would distort conversations that are going on and be hard to hear. We don't want that.
Right.
So we have found one that is a 2x2 acoustical. It's a drop ceiling tile, very much like almost, well, I think that's larger than 2x2, but it is a 2x2 square that will look very similar to that ceiling. It'll have drop ceiling, or you have can lights that is strategically placed. There'll be more can lights around the museum collection, or over the museum collection, and where the architect had drawn them kind of behind the viewer. Like if you're standing there viewing the collection, your shadow would be cast on that item. Derek Pryor's like, no, we can't have that. So we had to move it between the item and the person, and now there's no shadow cast. So that was very beneficial that he was there at that meeting Wednesday. So that and the intensity of the light needed to be more. All of the lights for the museum displays will be on dimmers. So we want to have enough power if you need it, but be able to tone that down if you want to as well. So that'll be taken care of. Electrical, along that western wall, which I focus on that western wall because that's where most of the collection will be. The windows space is needed for display. So those windows will be seen from outside the building, but from inside the building, you'll have collection space over top of those windows. They'll be pretty well walled off with collection wall. The northern wall, where we had a projector at one time, figured it was $10,000 for the screen and the projector. That was a cost-cutting measure that we took. We took that out because we're able to do LED screens now, much less in cost, and place them strategically running loop video or content on it, whatever it ends up being. So that's something that we'll go to a large LED screen placed instead. But on that northern wall, we need that for museum space. So where that LED screen goes is kind of up in the air. I think the other things that are really pertinent. When you first walk in, you know what I'll call the utility wall, or where you see a heat, it's all the way forward in the room, and it's right there at the stairwell. You could say the stairwell utility wall. That wall is the wall that Derek says pops when you first walk in. It's very, very important to him to get that right, because when people walk in, they're going to be instantly drawn to come into that room. So he's again, the wheels are turning. And getting the lighting right over that wall was crucial. Let's see, some of the other things. We've talked about drainage and fire sprinkler systems and all kinds of stuff that aren't really museum collection related. Something that is important is downstairs. It was a very expensive process to go through getting air conditioning that would remove any humidity from downstairs. However, it's a dry basement. There's not a lot of humidity going to be produced down there. What happens right now in the building that the collections occupy now is, I call the Wintech building, is a dehumidifiers in that space. They're very inexpensive to run. So it's much more cost effective for us to do a dehumidifier downstairs in a place that's not wet anyway. The whole building and the space downstairs will be air conditioned. It's just not going to have this expensive dehumidification machine that you could have had. It's able to be added later if we find that it's a difficulty or a problem. So for now, I just want to let you know that that's the plan. I don't see it as problematic at all. We're talking about security lighting. We're talking about lighting of the exterior of the building. Have you all been in there lately?
No.
No.
Be good to take a little trip over there. If you're working next door and you see the guys working, you can go on in. If you want to schedule a time, I'll take you in, whatever you'd like to do. Because
I think it'd be great to schedule a time.
Yeah, just give me a call, let me know what works for you guys. We'll make it happen.
I'm good with that.
We'll go to the construction meeting. What's the construction meeting, 9 a.m. or something?
9 a.m. on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, so in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And you're welcome to come to that. I just, it's a very focused.
Right. How long do they usually last that we could come after, or somebody could come after
Yeah, they last about an hour.
an hour? Okay. So maybe 10 o'clock if members want to.
Clock would be good.
That's what I was going to do.
Somebody have a calendar to see what day that would be?
So would that be on the 2nd? Because tomorrow is Wednesday. Is there a meeting tomorrow?
Second, I'm looking at my calendar.
Second?
The 2nd at 9 a.m.
Okay.
It's a date, Dennis.
What's it? It's a date.
Yeah, I'm recalling they may have a scheduling conflict around that date.
If you can just email it.
Yeah, if you would email us when
Yeah, I'll do that. When I
a
get
date would be,
confirmation for sure.
date would be good, then whoever wants to attend can attend.
Okay, will do. Another thing I want to tell you is that we're meeting with Ameren coming up next week to talk about an electrical car charging station to be placed outside. I don't know if you folks have been following the future of electric cars, but more and more manufacturers getting on board saying, and they're making kind of commitments on what their vehicle production in terms of electric car capability is going to be in the year 2025 or 26 or 2030, whatever. Manufacturers are going to electric cars, and so there'll be a large portion of the population that'll be driving electric vehicles within the next 5 years. And so St. Louis County has made it mandatory now that any new construction will wire, any commercial buildings will wire at least the capability into a paved parking lot. So they can, for future expansion, they will have those cables already in place, or those conduits. So we're not going to be any different. We will have conduit run across our parking lot, and we're going to be talking to Ameren here next week about a cost-sharing thing with the city to get us two high-speed car charging stations. If you do high-speed, you can do it within about 30 minutes. You can recharge your batteries, which is a great little visit at the museum, right? If you do low speed, it's like 24 hours, or something like that. So it's nonsense to go low speed. So having two high-speed ports just to the left of the front corner of the building to the west is where we're looking at.
The other benefit to that too is, I don't think Eureka has any the last time that I checked. But I think the
They do
nearest.
at the Schnucks
Oh, they do at the
Shopping
Schnucks
Center.
now?
They just put them in.
Nooks has a couple. Ameren has a contract to put some at the big truck stop out in Cuba, but like between here and there, there's a big void.
Right.
So,
Do you have to pay when you plug your car in?
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you-
Oh, yeah.
How is
And-
that set up?
Well, there is a couple options. One is that we would let a company come and put it in for free, and of course, then they make the money. Or there's a cost share that the city could weigh or could bear half the cost, split with Ameren, and then the city would charge for that, and it would be a revenue stream. So that's very appealing.
Right, yeah.
Has anything happened with MoDOT as far as getting the right-of-way?
We're in talks with them to do a 5-year lease that's renewable every 5 years. That is something that is ongoing, and we're trying to, I just actually sent an email this evening to my contact at MoDOT to ask how the progress is going. But we think that'll be resolved very soon.
Anything else on Red Cedar?
Not at the moment.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Myers? Mr. Roth, do you have anything?
Nope.
Anybody have any comments or questions for Mr. Roth?
Just miscellaneous.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch on since this has happened since our last meeting, just that the ordinance repealing our bylaws and downing our number of members. On our website, there was still a call out for 3 members, if we, I guess, get that taken off, because we're not looking, we have all 5 currently. And the other thing I had a question on was, in the ordinance, it talks about our bylaws being repealed if they haven't been approved by Board of Aldermen previous. You, Mr. Roth, we're going to check on that for Park Board, is that correct?
Yes.
Can we get an update on that as well?
Yes. The question is, have your bylaws been adopted by the board, right?
Right.
That is the question.
That's
Yes.
the question,
Yes,
yes.
I can check that.
All right, appreciate that.
Thank you.
So regarding that ordinance and downing our membership to 5, I guess, because before, when we had 9, the alderman was a member of the committee. So I'm just trying to get what's the role of Mr. Nemeth now that he's our liaison still. Is he a member? If
Being
so,
a-
then
Being annoying and talking a lot.
we enjoy having you. But I just want to make sure that we're clear on the number of members that we have and who makes up that membership.
Without the ordinance in front of me, I'm not
Okay.
sure. Certainly, it'd be my understanding that he is not a voting member.
Okay.
Yes. But-
Okay. Can we get a clarification on that?
Yeah, because if he's not a voting member, he made a second earlier
I know,
tonight.
that's what I'm
So,
That's what it just, when Bonnie was talking about, it's kind of got my wheels turning there for a second. So which motion was that?
That was for the mission statement and the vision statement, I believe.
no,
No, was it the other one?
yeah,
It's for the displays.
yeah, the displays.
Place, okay.
So should we maybe,
Can we revisit that motion? Sorry, Mr. Nemeth.
I'll remake my motion,
Regarding
the displays.
the display exhibit list,
Yes.
including the Shaw's,
Yeah.
Red Cedar,
And Purina Farms.
So
Purina
Dennis
Farms.
approved that, and Andy seconded it.
All right, so Andy remade his motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so
All right.
Dennis made the motion, Donna seconded.
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Just wanted to get that clarification.
Just in case.
Right. Right. Any other comments, questions under miscellaneous for any?
I have one, and
Yes.
I don't know if you've been in the Wintech building, but the shelving
Yes.
has been installed, and
Yes.
some of it was donated, and some of it was purchased, so I hope you're happy
Yeah.
with it.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, we have the safe that's up there and the shelving, which is great. Shelving's amazing, so.
How would we go about getting somebody to help us put those tubs and stuff on those shelves?
Good question.
Because I know I can't lift all those tubs and put them on the shelf.
Dennis is pretty strong.
So,
Dennis?
let me ask, is there any organization to the shelves or to the tubs now?
They're numbered.
No, they're numbered, but since they've been moved 3 times, they're not even in numeric order anymore. They're just
Yeah.
there. So it would take for a long time. Like if you had Public Works come, I wouldn't expect them to put everything in numeric order. Just if we have the tubs up so we can see the numbers somewhere, and if we want to get photographs out of tub number 9, we can look around and find number 9.
Actually, I think I would volunteer to come help, but I think we ought to get them in numeric order because at some point we want them that way.
I
And
agree.
you're just gonna, yeah.
Well, but they're probably going to be moved again over to Red Cedar.
So keep them in numeric order.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
So, I mean,
yeah,
yes, it'd be
In a
preferable
perfect
if we could
world.
get them in numerical order.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah, I mean, if you tell me when, I can give you an hour or two and come down there and we should be able to get them put up if somebody's there to lead me.
More than an hour or two, you.
Well, we'll take an hour of his time or 2 of his time.
I'll help too.
Okay.
I can help.
So
Okay.
why don't you get a date? Is a weekend better?
Yeah, a weekend would be better for me if that's okay with everybody.
Okay.
I'll just tell you that with the cold weather, I don't think the guys will mind coming in for a couple hours and helping.
That's a Saturday?
Well,
Except that, I guess this is the question. Will the guys stay long enough?
What do you think?
A few
If
hours.
we could do them, if they could put them in order like on a Friday, and then maybe Saturday, we could put them up.
No, they would probably put them in numeric and put them up.
Put them in order, they're going to find
Right.
one.
or here or here. That's the thing that you would want to have figured out before they.
Just see the number and put it up there. I mean, that's what it's going to take.
Well, Steve, would they want to do that like on a Friday? Or is there any particular day during the week that they would prefer to do that? How are their schedules?
The cold one.
Coldest day?
If we have a week or two, I think we can work that into the schedule. You know, you obviously want to avoid, springing it on people, but
Right.
week or two out, we can manage
Why
it.
don't you check with whoever?
I'll reach
you know,
out to him tomorrow.
And
Okay.
then let me know, because it would just be a matter of me or Jeff coming down and opening the door for him and being
Or,
there
well,
with
they'll
them.
have keys, but I mean,
You know.
somebody from our committee needs to be there to help.
Yeah.
Just
guide.
lead them.
Yes, just
sir.
say, looks good.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
So if you could get a date to Donna, Debbie, or a general time frame, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and just quickly, we do have a second Parks Department employee now, and so we're a little bit better situated now. When Chris was, when when Chris was the only guy, he was managing the parks, and so he really didn't have a lot of extra time. I don't think any of us do, but with the second employee, I think we're a little bit better positioned for it.
Any other comments, questions?
Just out of curiosity, who is that? What is the person's name?
George?
George? Since we were talking about exhibits and things, changing the subject entirely, but I'm not sure if it's something that we want to try and start on, even if it's just, again, to add to this list. But we talked about video interviews with different people in town, and I've sort of started that list, but I need everybody's help, and I'm not sure if we're looking at this, potentially being part of an exhibit coming with the Red Cedar opening, or if it would it be professional videos, I guess?
It would be a good quality video, but most likely not filmed by a professional, because we just simply don't have it in the budget.
Did you say Sam Dean would be
Not for free.
working? Well, right.
So we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars potentially, and where is that going to come from?
Right.
We're trying to build this building.
Well,
and
maybe that could be something that we could eventually get a volunteer to do. Maybe somebody from the high school, the video
That would be
lab or
fantastic.
something.
I think to Bonnie's point, yes, we do want to get those videos, and I think they should be incorporated, hopefully some of them, bless you, would be incorporated into an exhibit. If you have a screen and somebody could be talking about something that's in the display area, about if they remember, when they remember it as a kid growing up in Pacific or something like that.
I think even, I'm sorry, Dennis.
I was just going to say, the ones that I have seen in past at other museums, it's been more of just a story time, just going and reminiscing and telling stories that from days of old. And so I don't know if it would line up like you're talking, or if it'd just be something that
I think
we'd
it'd be
have
a
it in
little
the
bit of
archives.
both. I think it would have to be a little bit of both. You have this display here of some item or telling a story that I think it would be neat to have somebody that witnessed this or whatever telling the story. But no, it would have to be a story time too, kind of thing.
Yep.
But I think it would have to be a little bit of both.
And I also think in addition to that I think there's times too where some of these things could go on the city website or the Red Cedar Facebook page, or so like some of this stuff too, which is a great idea, and interviews are awesome. I think there's some great stories that can be told. I also think there's things in addition to not just what would be in the museum, but also in advertising or Facebook posts or the website, like I said. So that doesn't just have to be within the four walls.
Correct.
Like a lot of that can leave the four walls too, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've started that list, and I don't mind keeping it if anybody, I need input on who
Can you-
people's names.
Could you email that list you got started out to us and we can add or whatever to it? That'd be great.
Sure.
No.
Yep.
Dennis has a lot of stories, but nothing about this.
Anyone else have anything?
I'm just going to ask the question about, so do we think we will be having regular meetings that we can schedule, or is this just going to continue on an as-needed basis?
I would prefer to have regular meetings.
I think we would too.
Yes, definitely. And if we don't have anything to discuss, we can
Cancel it.
cancel it and move on.
Yes. We've obviously been kind of working around Dr. Udi's schedule, and then just trying to stay on task as the project is moving forward. I think your standard meeting date was a conflict, if I remember.
It was a
right.
conflict, right. And I think we moved them to Wednesdays because they were a conflict, because they're originally on Mondays, or what? I'm trying to think.
I think they were originally
Right.
on Tuesdays, and we had to change it.
Right. There were one day, I remember when it was a conflict, and I think we started doing them on Wednesdays.
Yeah, 'cause
I don't
when
know
we
if
were
there's
at the
anything,
When we were at the senior center, we didn't have to worry about it.
because there was no
It became
conflict, but when
Part of the committee,
Right.
or part of
we
the,
had to have our meetings up here, there was a conflict, right.
yeah, we had to change it. Wednesdays.
Are people good with Wednesdays? I don't know if that's a conflict or,
Wednesdays are fine.
Wednesday is typically the one night that's open here, yes. So,
So
I mean,
how often?
once a month, I would just maybe second Wednesday. You know, there's always stuff happening. And we have, all Tuesdays are taken
Right.
by either Board of Aldermen or Planning and Zoning. Now, Planning and Zoning doesn't meet every time.
and Mondays are usually the park board,
Right. Thursday's court.
court.
So I think the second Wednesday would probably be one that would match up close to the P and Z date, which, you know, isn't always
Right.
a meeting. What I'm trying to avoid for myself is 3 meetings in a row.
Right. And I guess that's the thing, because, you know, we will need somebody here to help operate the equipment. So I guess if Wednesday works,
Works for me.
the second Wednesday works for everybody, then we can go that route.
Let's do that, and then,
Okay.
I don't know what the second Wednesday, I have my calendar. Second Wednesday in February is going to be I think it's going to be the 9th.
I think you're right.
Yep.
So,
Is 6 o'clock good for everyone, if the 9th works?
Yeah, I like 6 o'clock better than 7 like we used to.
And the admin meetings are the day before that, right? They're the second Tuesday of every month.
They
So then
are.
that's a good back-to-back.
Then our next meeting will be the 9th of February at 6 PM here.
Could we do 5:30?
Now, I used to send out a calendar to everybody that's on our email list. Can I go ahead and make up a calendar and send that out so that if anybody wants to come and sit in on the meetings, they know that they're happening?
sure, yeah. Yes, our meetings are open, of course, so.
Okay.
What about the 7 o'clock start time?
Yeah, we're flexible, of course. I will say the 6 o'clock start times for us, you know, I have not gone home. I mean, there's no point in me going home for a 6
Can
o'clock.
anybody meet earlier? They can meet at 5:30?
I can meet at 5:30, yeah.
Or is that better? Or,
Yes, I mean, yes. In fact, Steve and I may disagree. I would probably prefer that more. I know.
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay, all right. I would prefer that if
so you're not here so late?
yeah, I mean, the 7 o'clock, just, you know, 7 o'clock is a nice time frame. You go home, you eat, you know, get yourself,
And if Donna lets me run the meetings, then,
You know.
I can try to speed it up. But-
so I think 5:30 would be fine,
All right.
yes.
So 5:30, February 9th here at City
Perfect.
Hall.
Like it.
Anything else?
Yes.
If not, a motion to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Dennis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
did they
you.
decide the city's gonna help with them up there, or are they gonna?
Oh, yeah, I just.
The city is going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.